Hi, welcome to week 9 of storyboarding and animation, and this week we're going to continue with the idea of that thing we talked about earlier called the synesthetic opportunity of animation. And the idea here is that animation really is not just about pictures or visuals, but it also has other elements, sensory elements. And we've been looking mostly at sound and how sound is a big component in the animation and the animation process. So we're going to do the next step here. We're going to combine our visuals that we have so far, which is our storyboards, with a soundtrack. And this is called, in the industry, an animatic. And really what it does is it allows us to plan our timing in a way that makes the process of actually animating the work a lot simpler. For example, if we know that one panel of our storyboard we want for 2 seconds, then we know that's 48 frames. So we'll know how many pictures that we have to account for, how many frames we have to account for. And the sound is a really great part of that, because if it's dialogue or music or sound effects, that gives us very specific timing. So the animatic very literally is the storyboards shot each individually to the duration that they're going to be in the final movie, and then with the soundtrack. So we're going to hear the soundtrack and just see the still frame storyboard panels. Some animatics have a little bit of movement with them. I'm not going to ask you to do that. And this is, again, really important because it gives us the number of drawings we have to make in our final project, because we don't want to just start animating without that knowledge. And B, in the profession, it's important because the animatic is a point where the client can make changes on timing. Oh, that scene's too short. I want this scene to be a little bit longer, and so on. Because those decisions and changes made after the animation process is done are a lot more expensive to do. So we want to avoid any surprises in the labor-intensive animation process by sort of getting out in front of those. And the animatic is an important way to do that. And usually a client will sign off on the animation timing at the animatic phase. So it's really a very important thing to do. We'll be using Adobe Premiere generally in the Adobe suite to get those storyboards in and put the soundtrack together, because there we can adjust the timing of the storyboards or the individual images and put them in relation to the soundtrack and kick out a little movie, and I'll show you how to do that a little bit. So this week, storyboards, we're going to scan them or photograph them, put them in Premiere. We're going to put them each panel for the duration that we see them for our final movie, and align them up with a soundtrack so we can see the still images and hear the soundtrack and begin to get a sense of whether the movie's working, if we have to make some changes to the storyboards or the angles or what have you before the animation process begins. And we're going to begin the animation process soon enough, but we want to be able to circumvent any issues or pre-see any issues, if that makes sense, before we get into that just labor-intensive portion of the animation. All right. Okay, to make an animatic, there are plenty of tools you could use. Any video editing software that you're comfortable with should work fine. I like to use Adobe Premiere because that allows me to take files and very easily put together images and sounds. And basically you're just going to import your JPEGs of your individual storyboard frames into Premiere and then drag them into the timeline. And you can extend them or shrink them just by pulling on the little icon within the timeline itself. Then you're going to import your sound, put it in the sound layer, and then just align things up and move things around until it feels comfortable to you. If you have to edit the sound, again, you've got Adobe Audition to cut things as well, and you can pull in multiple tracks. Pretty straightforward, but if you need help, let me know and we'll walk you through it in a little more detail. One thing that you'll see in the animatic that I put together very quickly in the crayon lecture portion is that it's just very loose, and sound really does carry the whole story. And I think a lot of us, particularly as students, get hung up in perfection. It's got to look beautiful and all that kind of stuff. And my animatic certainly doesn't look beautiful. It's done very, very quickly. But that's kind of the point, because very often when you're discussing ideas, you want to get it from here out onto something as quickly as possible. And all that rendering and being worried about perfection really slows that down. So I know many great artists who like to use pen or something that forces them to just move quickly and get the idea down and not worry about details and things like that. And I think that's very important as well. So you can see my little corny animatic just demonstrates how you're going to put together quick images that just capture the idea, put it together with some sound. But the most important thing is to get the timing of your shots. How are they working together, one in relation to the next, and then the overall timing of your film. And that's what it's about. It's not about beautiful art or even the perfect sound effects at this point. It's about the timing of the story and the timing of the experience so that you can have a lot of information moving forward. All right, have at it.